What's the difference between the discontinued Honda 600 and this new release version? And why did they stop production? And what made them bring it back? This is honestly, I think, one of the most engaged with bikes that's been launched. People are very excited about 600s coming back. I think it's a nostalgia thing as well. Because people rode these bikes in the 90s and stuff and rode the arse off them as well, because they're not big super bikes or big 1200 adventure bikes. So and then at EICMA, Honda re-announced the CBR600RR. They have been selling it in some Asian markets with this updated front end and stuff, but actually for 2024 it's back, and it's not just kind of like the old bike. It's got genuine changes like an inertial measurement unit and tweaks to the engine, tweaks to the chassis, a new look. I've got to say, mate, it looks fantastic. What a handsome motorcycle. It's like a baby Fireblade in all the best ways. And then it's got the underseat exhaust, which I personally really like as well. I think it gives it a bit of flair and je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Cool, isn't it?
It's a very, it can be, with designs like this, and we're talking about the Aprilia as well, as obviously previous question to loop back. There's a very particular kind of proportions that if you just skew it ever so slightly the wrong way, it just starts to look ugly. It doesn't take too long, but they really, but it's such a subtle thing. It'll literally be down to like the curvature of that face. If you change that by a couple of centimeters, it will change the whole look of it. And I think Honda's design team, I've always thought actually that the Fireblade is one of the prettiest of the sports bikes. Or, if you look at the 2005 upwards kind of thing, that era onwards, I always thought the Fireblade was a very pretty bike, and this looks like an old CBR 600, or a 1000.
There are small differences, like I said, tweaks to every little bit if you look through it. And there's just small things like they've made the fork legs 15 mil longer so that there's more range of adjustment in terms of geometry. So you can drop it down through the forks or raise it up to make it a bit more chilled out. That's a track bias feature. A new TFT display. It's got a lap timer built in. It's like a really visible LED rev gear shift indicator. So it's all track stuff. Realistically, the tank shape is not only to get your chin down, but I think they've also allowed you to bring your arms narrower. New aerodynamics, a new shape of screen that's for a range of positions on the track. So it's really a focused machine.
I'd say for me, it's it sounds like, and I'm basing this on kind of external knowledge of it. I haven't done power figure comparisons, but in terms of bringing models back, it seems like, in actual fact, because of certain restrictions, they are, if anything, slightly less powerful, but maybe they tweak it so it makes it in a different area. In terms of improvements, generally across the board, it is improvements in braking, suspension, technology, basically. The other stuff that make the bike good. So in terms of engines, I don't think huge leaps forward in terms of performance.
It's similar. Right? I think there's tweaks. Two things though, mate, on this one. Number one, it is that more aggressive. It's not a beginner-friendly riding position. It's more track-focused. There's lots of track features. So that makes it look more aggressive.
Sure.
Like they've dropped the tank by 10 mil for this year so you can get your chin in. So it obviously helps to slant it down towards the front. But then also, there's definitely been a design trend towards small mini tail sections. But the fact that it's got a undertail exhaust means actually it's got quite a long passenger seat there, which might be considered a bit old school, but I actually think it looks really good.
For me, it's the face. It's first thing you see with it. I am. So the first thing I see is the face on a bike, and it's that has to hit the mark for me, and I think the Hondas always have.
It's a good question though as to why this particular class of bike, the 600s, have been dropped, and then now everyone's getting back on the bandwagon. I guess it's like emissions and sales numbers. Like if they're not selling very many,
they didn't make that much sense though, did they? Because if the people are using on the road, like you say, for the track, if this is track focused, then that's one thing. But if it's using them on the road as people used to, again, restrictions on just riding on the road are tighter than they used to be. So and it just doesn't make as much sense when you could be. I mean, like for yourself, right? The day you made the shift to go into an adventure bike and sit upright, it's a really hard sell to then go and I'm going to lean over and do this again for like commuting for everyday riding. You just don't want to go back to the cramped over position. So the market changed.
I don't think I could have a sports bike as my only bike. I like to have the adventure bike, and then I've got the SV650R. So when I get on that, I'm like, this is fun for a little while. But for the majority of riding, especially if you ride for work and it's a practical tool or you commute, it's much more appealing. So I think the market shifted. People, started to like other things. Also, the market is aging probably. So people are becoming a bit more practically minded and perhaps a little bit less lithe. And then also, it really feels like we've just gone through a period of lots of emissions regulations,
Yes.
you know, Euro 4, Euro 5, now it's Euro 5 plus. And so maybe looking at the sales numbers, it wasn't quite worth continually updating it so frequently in order to be able to keep selling it, because you've got to homologate the bike again, even if you make little changes. You know, there's a whole kind of process that costs lots of money and time. Maybe we're at a point now where it just feels like worth it again. I mean, they had been selling this bike, like I said, in some Asian markets. It was updated in 2021, I believe, and now it's kind of been brought out over here. So maybe it's more the question that, like, okay, Euro 5 plus, we're just going in there now. Maybe it's worth getting the bike out there because they know they'll get a couple of clean years of being able to sell it without updating it. It's a guess. That's a complete guess.